Welcome to the President's Desk on 96.9 KGPC and Peralta Television, where Laney College President Dr. Rudy Besikoff speaks with community members, colleagues, and student leaders. This program is supported by Technical Director Felicia Bridges, who co-hosts along with Laney College journalism major Randy Cross and President Dr. Rudy Besikoff.
Pull up a chair. Join me and Felicia today for episode number 64 of the President's Desk. Counseling and a number of other topics are on the table today as we welcome counselors Terrence Green and Douglas Cobb to the conversation. In and around our guests, we'll be checking in on our Partners of Laney feature and also provide you some special information about scholarship donations for our students. As always, the President's Desk airs at 2 a.m. and 2 p.m. on FM 96.9 KGPC on Wednesdays and can also be streamed at kgpc969.org by logging on and then clicking on Listen Live. Also, our shows can be seen Sundays from 1 to 2 p.m. on Peralta TV. Can't catch us then? No problem. All of our episodes are available anytime on demand at kgpc969.org. Great website, Felicia. Love it, especially just checking out all the shows. And, you know, there's so much great Peralta programming. Also, I know we have podcasts from our presidents of which colleges?
We have podcasts from Merritt College and BCC, and the best is Laney.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's all about the co-host, Felicia. That's what I have to say. And you know what? In addition to the radio, you can always catch us on Apple Podcasts as well as iHeartRadio. If you want to get in touch with the program, we always love to have our listeners interacting with us. Please send us an email to laneypodcast@peralta.edu. Social media, please get involved. Like us on Facebook at Laney College President's Desk Podcast, or you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Laney Podcast. Also, you can find select interviews and content from the show at YouTube by subscribing to the Laney College President's Desk channel. I'm Rudy Besikoff, president of Laney College, a pillar that has been serving our greater Oakland community since 1927 and has been known as Laney College for more than 66 years, and where once again spring is free this semester. You know, with my office, great teams are what it's all about. In addition to my co-hosts, I also want to recognize Raya Zion as a show contributor, and then also give a shout out to Colin, who's at the controls today. But getting things kicked off is my co-host, Felicia Bridges. Felicia, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, Rudy. How you doing?
Not too bad. You know, the rain is starting to leave the forecast a little bit. The sun's starting to come out. So
right.
What's some of the stuff you do as spring gets upon us?
As spring gets upon, well, I do some deep cleaning in the house, and I put away some of my winter clothing and blankets. What do you do?
Well, you know, getting outside's great. I love biking. I also know that I have a hobby that one of our guests today, Terrence Green, has, which is baseball. Terrence, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Yeah. So when you get outside, when spring starts, what do you like to do?
Well, you know, like you said, I'm into baseball, so I love to go watch baseball. My sons all both play baseball. I'm actually going down to Houston to watch my son this weekend play in Houston in a tournament down there. So I'm always outside in the spring, and you know, I just enjoy playing or watching baseball or not.
What position do you play?
I am a center fielder, second baseman.
Okay, and how about your sons?
He's a pitcher.
Oh, okay.
Oh, pitcher.
All right.
Yes.
What's his best pitch?
His best pitch is his changeup, and he's also has a very good slider.
Oh, okay. Well, off the air, we got to talk more about that.
Definitely.
Also want to welcome Douglas Cobb. Douglas, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
All right. Now, I know we'll talk later. You're a counselor for our student athletes, but how about yourself? Once the sun comes out, things are going on. When you get outside, what do you like to do?
Yeah, don't leave me out the baseball conversation. I'm a big baseball fan also.
All right. Learning some stuff here on the President's Desk. All right.
I'm third base and left field, so yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? If we got together to play, my position's safe. I'm a catcher, so that's good to know.
And my position in the stand.
There we go. All right.
Home plate.
We are covered. We could almost put an all-star team together here. That's awesome. So, you know, I just want to start off our conversation just to learn about your roles and how you got to those roles in terms of your education as well as just training. So, but I want to start with a base question. What does a community college counselor do? Douglas, maybe we could start with you.
What do we do? That's a good question. It seems like our role has expanded over the years, but our main role is to make sure we are there to help students graduate. We do all the academic programming of classes and a lot of support, whether it's connecting students with wraparound services and helping them kind of serve as a mentor, role model, and a fixture in their lives while they're at community college.
Terrence, I just heard Douglas say wraparound services. What are some of those services?
Well, any wraparound services could be anything from our student accessibility services, our EOPS, care, financial aid, any student services that can help students, Puente, Umoja, Ubaka, which are African-American themed programs. Those are all sort of wraparound services that we focus with students. Also, we do help students with transferring to four-year institutions, and we also help students to just navigate through the career options that are out there. And we also, Doug mentioned also, we also teach classes within the counseling department. We teach a college success course. Me and Douglas teach a couple of classes together. College success. We also do career and life development, and also career transfer. So counseling, we do a lot of different focuses within the community as well as on the campus as well.
Could one of you walk us through maybe the class that involves transfer? What could a student expect?
So at a transfer level class or like college success class?
So in other words, you mentioned a class that kind of prepares students to transfer. If they took a counseling class for that, what would that be?
So I'll start with career and life planning,
Sure.
Counseling 57. So in that, we would work on resume development. We would introduce students to various models that we have for career development. One of them being, gosh, it's slipping my mind. What are some of the scales we use? The RIASEC. Well, we have different. How I teach the class, I'll go into great detail on that. We really focus on job readiness, job preparedness, and looking at where the student is at now and building them to their future. So we would teach students how to research a career, how to outreach to someone in their profession. For instance, I would give a project if a student wanted to be a college president. I would say, hey, send an email to the college president, interview, and get an interview with the college president.
I would absolutely welcome that. So to our listeners, if you are interested in finding out what it would take to be a college president, please email me at rbesikof.edu. Wow, Felicia,
Yeah, you had mentioned models. I know you kind of were trying to figure out what all the models were, but just basically, what advice do you give students who are starting out and really trying to develop a career path?
Start with your resume. Get your interest on paper. Put your personality on paper. Put who you are on paper. And I think that is kind of the most basic, easiest way to get a student on that career or job readiness track. Just, provide us with a quick little excerpt of who you are.
So in addition to Counseling 57, Terrence, is there another class maybe that students should know about?
Yes, Counseling 24, which is College Success, is another class that I teach, and me and Doug have taught together. We've taught it in a couple of different formats. We've taught it during the summer. We've also taught it for the 8-week. We've also taught it, I'm teaching it right now for 14-week. But basically, the College Success, we would start off with the focus of teaching students about how to be a successful college student. And that basically starts with them, learning some of the student services that are on campus, also some of the academic policies. And overall, we talk about transfer. We talk about AA degrees. We talk about different majors that we have here on the campus. We often talk about different majors that we have on the campus. And then we get into the totality of the class, which is basically how to be a successful college student. So we focus on goal setting. We also focus on time management, a little bit of personal growth and development in there. And we also focus on learning different learning styles and just overall try to teach a student how to be not only a successful student, but also how to be more successful in life. And then those are the parameters that we teach the class from. And like I said, I've been teaching the class for like 16, 17 years now. And it's developed into, I think, a really good staple within our counseling format of classes that we teach. And I think the students really benefit from taking 24 as well as the 57.
Wow. Yeah,
and the 30 also.
No, I remember when I started my master's program, I took a class called Intro to Graduate School. It was 1 unit class, and I was shocked at how much it helped me get to know my campus. But yeah.
So, college success, I know that sometimes life creeps in to and could really be some interference in your college life. What is it that you advise students to do when life sometimes creep into student life?
Great question.
Yeah, that is a good question, and Doug could probably talk on this too. But that's what we work with on a day-to-day basis. We work with students who are in the college success class. We really recommend that to be for like freshman students, but we have all type of different students that take the class. It may be a freshman, it may be a student who's coming back after 20 years. It could be a student who went to a 4-year, they're coming back to the community college. So really, I think overall, as life happens, especially here in the heart of Oakland, we try to tell students that, they're starting from a mindset of trying to be more successful in college. And a lot of our students, maybe this might be their first time of actually being a college student. So a lot of times I've seen students come in and are kind of like nervous and just trembling when they first come see us as counselors the first time, because they've never been in a college setting. And now they're trying to, figure out how they can change their lives overall. And within us as counselors, seeing them on the front line, we're able to really try to devise different schemes for them to be successful, whether it's taking a college success, a career life planning class, or just taking like a basic culinary course, just a class that they can understand, how to be a college student. But life does have a big impact on our students on a day-to-day basis. And they're really, a lot of our students are really open to talk about what's going on with them overall in their lives. So I think we take that in, and we also give it back by trying to show them kind of what our journey is toward being professionals in the educational system.
Douglas, I'd like to extend Felicia's question to you. Let's say that I'm someone who hasn't been to college yet. Maybe I'm 27, 28, older. And I come in and I've got that nervousness or that trepidation about seeing a counselor. If I came to see you, what would be some things that you would do to kind of help me?
Yeah, that's a good question. I always like to start with your goals. What are your goals, and what is a plan that we need to put in place so you can stick to them? And one thing is always keep the people that are important to you up to date with your progress. Whether it's your instructors are going to play a key role in facilitating your academic growth. Always keep them in the loop. Even if you have to drop a class or withdraw from a class, let them know. Start that dialogue. Get used to forming connections with people that can assist with your success down the line. So I think that's one of the most important pieces in that, because life does happen and you're going to need support and strategies to get through them. And you may not have all those resources available. So always keep people in the loop.
Has the approach to that conversation with students changed, especially over the last 4 years? And I'm thinking, people FaceTime and Zoom on their phones. Everyone was quarantined for a while. As far as that step of talking to your instructor, when you have that conversation with them, has that changed much?
My approach hasn't. I think it's always difficult for students in any situation to start that level of communication, to get comfortable with that level. I think, their lives are so unpredictable for some students that they really don't see the necessity in doing it. So, getting them to take that step and building that connection, is important. But, my approach hasn't in that. I emphasize that.
Terrence, how about you? I come to your office. I'm as nervous as can be. What do you do to kind of get me in the right mind frame?
Well, I think just kind of piggybacking on what Douglas said is that, really just trying to get them in the comfort zone and try to, lighten the mood, kind of talk to them about, like Doug said about their goals, but kind of what their aspirations are. How do they feel about college? What brought them to college? Why are they interested at this stage in their life about going to college, and just really sitting down and just trying to start there and start a basic conversation and a basic dialogue so that they know that we're not really here to, you know, we're not really here to, judge them. We're here to just make sure that they're interested and focused in on taking college courses.
Such an engaging conversation we're having today with Terrence Green and Douglas Cobb right here at the President's Desk on 96.9 FM, KGPC, and KGPC969.org. How did the two of you become counselors?
Want to start?
Go for it. You can start.
Well, I always wanted to work in psychology. How I became a counselor was by accident. I did want to do sport. I wanted to do sports psychology. I went to University of Miami. They had the Red Hot football team at the time. Did internships there. I got my master's from there. And so when I came back home, back here to the Bay Area, I was looking for a job. I got hired as a counselor here at Laney, and it grew into working with student athletes. I worked at Laney, started in EOPS, then went to Alameda. Then there's an opportunity to move back here to Laney, and that's kind of how it happened, and it stuck with me.
Terrence?
My journey was very similar to Doug. We both have a background in sports psychology, and initially I was working within at McClymonds High School, working with the student athletes there, and then I had a good buddy of mine who I went to high school with, and he went through the master's program that I went to also, and he was saying, "Oh, there's academic counseling." And I was like, "Okay," I was interested in it, and so I started. I had a couple of friends that were in the field. And so I first started out at San Mateo, doing some community college counseling out there, and it just morphed into. Like Doug said, it was kind of accidentally the way I got into it, just by having a conversation about academic counseling. I kind of remembered how it was because I went to community college. I went to Contra Costa, and so I kind of remember how my counselor was there, and then obviously when I was at Morehouse, that counselor there. So it kind of morphed into that, and I worked at several community colleges before I finally got in at Laney. I worked at Merritt, I worked at Chabot, worked at San Mateo, City College of San Francisco. So I worked at a lot of different community colleges, and I had a great mentor, Robert Clark, who kind of told me a lot about, how to be a counselor and how to work with students. And so once I kind of was under his tutelage, I finally got on at Merritt, and I got on full time in 2005 at Laney. And we've been there since then.
You guys both touched on sports psychology, and we have quite a few student athletes at Laney College. And I am curious about the unique characteristics that college athletes bring to the table and how you address those unique characteristics.
Yeah, I think they have an unyielding drive to play their sport. They love their sport, and that's how they see themselves. So in their head, it is the sport first and school second. In my mind, it is school first and the sport second. So I feel I have to keep that perception and a certain level of intensity around them to keep them focused on their academics. But overall, they're great to work with, and they do a good job and contribute a lot to the campus.
For me, I think working with the student athletes, I want to just like Mr. Cobb was saying, focus in on the academic piece, but also I want them to understand that, there's a life after sports, and if you like sports and you like to be competing, there's so many different avenues. And especially now with the podcasting and, the social media, there's so many other areas in the sports world that they can work into outside of just being on the field. So I'm always interested in letting students know, about, if they do move on to a 4-year institution, to figure out how they can get that fifth year, in which they can go to graduate school, and the school can pay for them to go to school for at least 1 year, so do a graduate assistance. So I'm always interested in telling student athletes about kind of like the next step, because as we know, athletics is, you're one play away, depending on what kind of sport you're playing, from not playing anymore. So really just to have a mindset of how can you move into the next chapter of your life if you enjoy sports, and how sports can be, such a rewarding existence for you. As me and Mr. Cobb just mentioned, both of us kind of got into this field through the sports world, and neither one of us thought that we'd have a long career in academics, but sports kind of brought us into this. So really just overall, just trying to let student athletes know about trying to focus on different aspects of being a student athlete.
Some of our listeners hopefully are students, and they're trying to think about their own careers. And I have to say, listening to the two of you, I kind of want to maybe hit the rewind button and be a counselor. I mean, just it sounds like a great career. Could you take us back to when you attended college, the classes and the degree you had to earn to become a counselor? Maybe we'll start with Terrence this time.
Well, I would say when I first started my journey as a college student, I wasn't very good. My goal was to make it to the pros, but after a while, I started seeing that curveball was a little bit more wicked than it was in high school. So I had to figure out a different mindset as far as being a student athlete. So I think that my journey as an academic, and working with counselors, I think I really learned more about the counseling field when I was at Morehouse and working with counselors there, because those counselors there were really, they were really well traveled, and they knew a lot about the counseling.
So you're saying shadowing was actually part of your experience
as
a student?
I would say that, yes, definitely. Especially, like I said, when I was at Morehouse, I definitely, the counselor who I worked with became kind of like, later on in life became a colleague of mine. But at that point in time, I think that he was a mentor to me. And, he kind of outside the academic pieces and, the social pieces, and getting acclimated overall to being, far away. Doug,
Sure.
He went to Miami, and being in Atlanta, that's a long way from being in the Bay Area. So just, really, and that's how I think I learned about how to be more like comforting to students, so that they can be, the best they can be, because it can be difficult to be a student, especially just trying to understand all the nuances of how to transfer, how to get a degree, how to do well in college, as well as try to do well as far as your next step, as far as your goals.
Felicia, I'm really interested in what Doug's going to tell us as well about his education, but I want to sidebar with you for a second, because couple things Terrence said jumped out to me.
Okay.
First of all, the idea of shadowing as part of the educational experience, I think especially specific to counseling, that's something I've never heard before.
Yeah, I've never heard that either, and that's,
yeah,
to me, makes plenty of sense.
And then the other thing that, and it seems like maybe student athletes, but students as well, the idea that maybe once the bachelor's degree is attained, applying to be that graduate assistant at the next level, not only is that valuable experience in terms of mentorship, but also covering costs potentially.
Right.
So I think from Terrence, we got two nuggets right there we could use. No pressure there, Doug, but tell us about your educational experience.
It wasn't right away that I knew what I wanted to do. I wasn't a great high school student, so I definitely looked at the community college as a second opportunity. And I came to Laney. It was really the foundation of my education right there. And the community college is such a valuable tool, period, that where you can work and go to school to transfer, and go to school to get a certificate to move into another field. What really kept me in the community college and grounded was getting my EMT certificate at Merit. And that really paved my way through school. I was able to work as an EMT.
Emergency medical technician?
Emergency medical technician, and I worked with AMR. And I had the unique experience of actually, to stick with the term, to shadow, but I was working alongside with the paramedics at the time. So I was actually the third wheel on the ambulance as a paramedic. Now, most EMTs are just working with another EMT. and they just do transports. But I was actually doing, code 3 response calls, and I had a great opportunity. And from that, I was able to get a job as a nurse's assistant at Children's Hospital and at Highland, where I worked in the ER. And I used that actually to pay my way through school all the way up to the point where I did get my master's. So, the community college is such a valuable resource in the community, and I don't really think people know how to utilize it and the value of it. But that was just something that really kept me in tune with the community, and really wanting to come back and do a job like this when I did get hired.
Doug, I'd like to ask a follow-up question. You mentioned your career in the medical field, which is, I'm getting to know both of you today. This is great. There's a concept of transferable skills. In other words, you have things that you take with you from one career to a different career. And clearly you came out of the medical field. Having said that, what are some skills from that time in your life that you find you lean on as a counselor?
I think working with people in distress, just really exercising compassion, the understanding that people need. I think the biggest skill is just being able to observe the whole scene, understanding there's a story behind the story, and taking that into account when you're working with students.
Wow. Oh, no, so much that carries over. If you were somebody maybe starting fresh in college and thinking about counseling, what advice would you give them?
What advice would I give? I would say be aware of burnout. That's number one. It could be a stressful job, and always this is what I would say. If you're looking at this career avenue, it opens up the opportunity for you to springboard off into other careers. So counseling is broad, and you can do a lot of different things with it. Just like you can here at Lane, you can teach, but also you can contract. You can, counseling is broad. So just know that. Just keep your options open, and you can do radio counseling shows. You can, do mental health counseling. So it's a broad field, and keep your options open.
I see a new possibilities for KGPC, Felicia.
I see that.
Terrence, how about you? What advice would you give somebody, a new student thinking about counseling?
Well, I think that one thing would be good for them to do is to see a day in the life of an academic counselor and what we do, especially if it's a counselor that maybe teaches classes. But just like Doug said, there's so many different areas. There's high school counseling there. And this is for a lot of students who come in and they're saying, okay, well, I like, a lot of students do say that. I like to do your job. What would you have to do? And so, obviously, to work on our level, you have to have the master's degree, but you can still do, even with a BA degree, there's areas of counseling that you can work into also, just depending on what type of area that you want to focus in on. But overall, I would say that, like Doug said, there is burnout in the field of counseling, because you're working with individuals. So sometimes, and probably learned this both in our master's program, is that sometimes there's a transference, between you and another individual, because you after a while you become to take on some of their issues and things that they're dealing with, and you kind of transfer it to yourself. So really just being empathetic and understanding that piece of how to work with individuals. But I think that there's so many different areas in which students can go into in the counseling field that I would definitely let students know that there's ways in which they can be successful in the counseling field, and just overall in psychology. There's so many different branches off of psychology or sociology, social sciences areas. So I would just tell students that, shadowing a counselor would be a really good way, and really to find out what demographic do they like to work with. Because some individuals would only like to work with the high school level, or some may want to work on the elementary level or the middle school level, but they don't necessarily want to work with adults. So really kind of learning about what your interests are and who would you like to work with. Like, I probably wouldn't necessarily want to work on the high school level, I worked on that level. I'd rather work with adults, but there's some individuals out who may want to work with different levels.
Wow. Just amazing insights into counseling. And certainly want to remind our listeners that you're tuned into the President's Desk right here on 96.9 FM, KGPC, also heard at kgpc969.org. So as we transition at this point in the show, I'd like to move on to our Partners of Laney feature. And we've got some exciting stuff going on. March 6th, want to give a shout out to Raya Zion in the Employment Services Office, as she is coordinating a Women in the Trades panel discussion on the Laney campus that is focusing on women in the electrical field. And Felicia, I know at the last broadcast I mentioned this a little bit, but we've got a partner in this appearance, which is the City of Oakland's Workforce Development Office.
Oh,
they're actually going to be joining the conversation. Big shout out to Sophia Navarro and the team that's there. Also, this is one of the big events on campus that's coming up, the Career and Technical Education Open House. We really just open up our campus and all our labs around career education. Our industry partners come out and join us. It's always great to see PG&E there, and some construction companies and a number of partners. And so they'll be out with us on April 27th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And it literally is almost the entire Laney campus. The doors open for that. And also just a reminder that BART, through the Employment Services Office, is offering summer internships. If any of this sounds interesting to you as a student, or if you're a partner out there wanting to offer paid internships to our students, please reach out directly to our Employment Services Specialist, Raya Zion, at 510-464-3530, or you can email her at rzion@peralta.edu. Felicia, did any of those jump out to you?
Yes, that BART opportunity sounds great. And I'm glad Oakland is kind of stepping up
they are.
and providing opportunities.
Yeah, well, you know what? They've kind of, during my presidency, they've been there.
They've been there?
Yeah, they've been there. They've been present in so many things. A couple months ago, we had the tiny houses ribbon cutting, and there's so many things where they come out and they're tabling with us, and we so appreciate them. Also, speaking of appreciating people, as we transition at this point in the show, I'll go ahead and remind our listeners that Laney College provides one-time support scholarships for students who face unforeseen financial difficulties during the semester, the lost laptop, the flat tire, just life happening, and it impacts ability to attend school. Anyway, if you are a student who's experiencing such difficulty, please reach out to my office at 510-464-3219, or you can email me directly to let me know what's going on at rbesikof@peralta.edu. Also, to our employees and community members, this is a reminder that all charitable gifts to Laney College, whether it's the President's Emergency Scholarship or any sort of scholarship you wish to donate to, all those gifts are tax deductible and processed through the Peralta College's foundation, which is a 501c3 nonprofit. If you have any questions about the foundation, please reach out to them at 510-587-7809 or email them at PFS, Peralta Foundation Services, at peralta.edu. Also, to our employees, it is possible to do payroll deduction pre-tax and make your donation that way. And you're welcome to reach out to me anytime if you're an employee or a member of the public who has questions about that. So, Terrence and Doug, I guess I paid a few bills there, did some advertising and a few pitches, and want to welcome you back to the show right now. March 15th is the deadline to petition. Can you tell us about that process and why it's so important?
That's the day you put in your paperwork for your AA or your certificate. So that's an important time. That leads to walking the stage. So,
that's right. I want to shake hands. Lots of hands when that happens.
There you go.
And to our listeners, May 24th, 10 a.m., graduation at the football stadium. Yeah. Terrence, just the experience of the petition and filing the petition, what are some things students should know?
Well, they need to know that this is a good time right now for them to come in and meet with the counselor or past the pre-semester mark. So this is a good time for students to come in and see a counselor so that you can go through all your classes and to see if you are eligible for a degree. The other piece is that we usually will have some students that may have multiple degrees. Sometimes students think that they only are eligible for one degree, but depending on what classes they've taken, especially if they're in the transfer mode. They may have multiple degrees, whether it's a social science, whether it's a humanities, whether it's a business administration. So they may have a couple of different options on getting degrees, and they may even have options to get degrees not only from Laney, but also from Merritt or Berkeley
with our
College.
four-college system.
Yeah, so a lot of times students don't know. They say, "Oh, I didn't know I could get a degree from different campuses." But there are some students that are real astute, and they know that they can get different degrees from different colleges. But basically, the process is really just coming in and talking with a counselor just to see exactly where they're at. And typically, what happens around this time is we usually will send out a 45 unit letter that tells students that if you're at 45 units that you may want to sit down and talk with a counselor just to see where you're at and see if you're eligible for graduation. So usually that letter should be coming out soon, right around within the next week or so, because we're about a month out from the graduation petition date. So for all students who have been taking classes that have anywhere between 45 to 60 units, this is a great time to come in and see if you're eligible to graduate, because even if you have 6 units or less, you can still walk across the stage and you can take those classes during the intersession or during the summer. So a lot of students say, "Oh, I don't have the units that I need," but you can still catch those units up and still be able to walk across the stage.
You know, Felicia, it's amazing. And I have a family member who got his associate degree for transfer in math. And then when he got his final transcript, was surprised to learn he'd also earned another degree with the units he'd taken and 2 certificates, and
Wow.
didn't even know it. And the thing about it that's amazing is the certificate, and why we want to urge people to submit for their certificates is that that's a milestone on your resume that can either start or advance you in your career, and it's so important. Also important is the student ed plan, the education plan. Doug, could you tell us a little bit about that?
That is your academic roadmap. I feel that's just as important as anything you do as filing financial aid, but this is your academic roadmap. This lays out the sequence of courses that you're going to need for your time at Laney. You can, you could do a 2-year plan, a 18-month plan, but this lays out so you can see when you're going to be taking what classes, and it helps keeps things arranged. So if life circumstances do present, you know where to pick up if you fall off. So also it lays out all the core GE classes, the core major classes. So this is what you want to see your counselor for, and make sure you have one.
Terrence, when it comes to counseling, what's the difference that you're finding often between the needs of, let's just say, our first year students and second year and beyond?
Well, for our first year students, I think just like what Mr. Cobb just said right here, as far as that education plan, that's why it's important for our first year students to really get a map so that they got an idea of what they want to do moving down the road and how long it's going to take. Because a lot of students want to know how long it's going to take, how long it's going to take. And depending on what their major is, right, we're looking at if it's a certificate, it's more of a kind of a sprint. If it's an AA degree, then it's more kind of like a little bit longer, like a marathon or a transfer. So I think really letting students know, especially in that first year, exactly what the parameters are going to be and how long it's going to take. And it all depends, right? If you have a student who's looking at psychology as a major, it's maybe not as intense as if you have a student who's interested in chemistry, right? Or engineering, or another one of those high unit majors. So that's kind of the difference between, I would say, like a first year or a second or a third year student that's at the community colleges, that really just focusing in on what classes do they continually need to take. And a lot of times students don't know exactly what classes that they need. They've been taking classes, and sometimes we may be sitting down, me or Douglas may be sitting down with a student and say, "Hey, you have 75 units right here. You have enough right now to transfer," and they don't know it because they haven't really sat down with a counselor. They've just been taking classes, or they met with a counselor initially but never really went back to the third floor and never met with another counselor again. So they're kind of spinning, maybe just taking classes that they're interested in, and maybe they've tried out a few of our CTE programs, maybe culinary or cosmetology, but not really quite honed in on an actual major. So I think that's kind of the difference between the first and the second and third year students, is that those second and third year students typically have a lot of units, whereas that first student is just kind of trying to get their feet wet and trying to figure out what the program is as far as what their goals are going to be.
Aside from the college success courses, what are some, I guess, foundational courses that you would recommend students take?
Well, I would say I know we're trying to get a first year experience program going. Laney, I know some of the other colleges have first year experience programs, but I would definitely say our beginning classes are going to be a foundation counseling course, obviously, college success, a career and life planning, personal growth and development. But English 1A now is a staple for the AA degree as well as for transfer. Math 13 is also a staple. In communications. Those are typically going to be like the beginning level classes that students are going to take, because those pretty much are those are the English and the math and communications are three pillars that go toward the transfer as well as the AA degree. And college success is always a good class to get started with. So I always think those are really good classes, or maybe a basic intro class if they're interested in psychology or sociology or geography. Those are all good classes, but that English and math and communications are really pretty good fundamental courses, I think, to start with.
Math 13. Is that algebra?
Statistics. That's statistics.
Oh, is that statistics?
Yeah, that's stats,
former vice president of instruction who knows the catalog a little bit.
Yeah, that's statistics. That's
Okay.
Unfortunately that's the class that students have to take to start their journey in math. But that's another question.
Terrence shared something about kind of telling students, guess what? You actually do have a degree here. Both of you, I imagine, had that experience of talking to a student and then having them realize that. Could you take us inside that moment and their reaction, and maybe a story that comes to mind, obviously without naming any students?
I guess the first reaction is I do. They're always a surprise. But yeah, I think it's a great feeling when you see a student. They may feel, oh, I've been floundering, I've been taking a lot of classes, I'm not sure what connects, and you kind of do a little audit, you review everything. Hey man, you 1 or 2 classes shy of getting a degree, you can hop in one of these late start classes and finish up this semester. So
let me go ahead and plug March 11th and March 18th, 100 late start classes launching. Sorry, Doug, go ahead.
No,
had to be
great.
A president there for a second.
You got to keep pushing that. I think that's a great thing that Peralta has done is open up these late start classes. It keeps the momentum going for these students and keeps them grabbing at these degrees. Oftentimes you'll see a student who is on the verge of maybe science and there's one class short of social science, so you can hop in a late start counseling 30, hop in a late start health ed, finish off that social science, and now you have 2 degrees instead of 1. And again, anything you can put on a resume to help build yourself and show your growth is what you want to do. So, but it's a great moment to work with students when they see that sense of relief. And like you said, you want to be able to shake their hand.
Absolutely.
It's just a great opportunity to see students accomplish something.
It's a great stage to walk up with your cap and gown on, that's for sure. Terrence, how about you? Have you ever, when you met with a student and they kind of had that aha moment, just any memories of that stick out?
Well, I can think of there's one student who I had, and she had been taking classes, but she never really sat down with me before, and she had saw counselors, but she had been taking classes, but she hadn't seen a counselor for like maybe a year or 2, but she was still taking classes, and we're just kind of going through it. And I think she was maybe a culinary student, and so she was like, yeah, I'm taking my last classes for culinary. I'm going to get this. I think I'm going to try and get the certificate. But then after looking through her degree, I'm saying, well, you're actually eligible not only for an AA degree, but you're also eligible to transfer. And I can just remember she was just like real excited. I mean, I can remember this student. She actually called her mom, was like, oh, I'm about to graduate. I'm actually I'm not just getting a certificate in culinary, but I'm actually going to be getting an AA degree. And it was a real rewarding, because a lot of times we see students and we understand kind of what their trials and tribulations are, and really trying to kind of those achievements are, after Doug and I, we see so many students, sometimes it's like it gets numb to us about, okay, trying to push these students to get to where they want to go. But then when you get that rewarding student that's just like really appreciative and really can really follow through on getting that degree, it's really rewarding for us as counselors to see those students be able to make that step. So when she was able to do that, I can remember her to this day just being so excited.
Thank you both for sharing that experience. And also, again, to our listeners, so pleased that you are tuned in and listening to me and Felicia right here at the President's Desk on 96.9 FM, KGPC, also heard at kgpc969.org. Both of you do so much more than just counseling, and I'd like to spend a few minutes talking about that. Our semester kicked off with our Flex Day, and two of you were helpful with a panel. Could you tell us a little bit about that panel discussion that took place and the work that went into it and takeaways that people had?
Yeah. So the panel discussion on reparations. I wanted to, in my new role, thanks to Terrence, as I guess the diversity chair of the union, I wanted to do something that was definitely pertinent to the community, as well as what was relevant to what I felt was going on in Peralta. I felt like I know these talented people district wide, so I wanted to put together a panel that I thought addressed some of the core issues that were going on in Peralta, and that was reparations. I think that our district has done a great job of modeling some of the key aspects of what we would look for as reparations, whether it be the free tuition, getting books, computers for students, just meeting students where they're at with the cultural programs, whether it be APAS, whether it be Moja, Ubaka, Puente. There has really been a big effort to acknowledge the students. And I wanted to take the scare out of reparations and present it in a way that is not just looking back at our history and shoving it in somebody's face, but it's ongoing actions we can take to build a community. And it's a model that just doesn't benefit African Americans, but benefits everybody who's part of the community. And so that's kind of what the birth of that panel was about. And just working with Terrence, working with Lisa Swagadogo, working with Roger Porter, working with Janine Greer, district wide, it just helped it all come together very smoothly.
So what are you hoping to not hoping to accomplish, but what other activities are planned that are along the same lines of this panel?
Well, I think that Peralta has already been doing the activities, and I wanted to shine some light on that through reparations. And I'm not sure if everybody caught that, but one of the speakers said it up there on stage that, hey, you guys are already doing this. So it's nothing that we need a bill to get passed to do. So basically
just doing it, right?
Just doing it. Yeah.
No, that was I was there that day, and the message in a lot of ways was stay the course, Laney College. You're doing things that represent and constitute reparations. And, that was actually an emotional day for me to hear that. I was so, I was very moved. Terrence, can you weigh in on this as well? Just the experience of that day, the panel, the work you're doing.
Well, I mean, this was Doug's brainchild, and he brought me along on the journey. And I think one thing that we wanted to do is make sure that it was tied into the educational component. And so once we got the educational component down, and the panel was just amazing, and they really brought, and I felt that a lot of the faculty as well as the classified staff that was there really kind of got educated on what reparations is. It's not just about the money. It is about the money, but it's not just about the money. It's about, trying to find different ways and different avenues to make sure that, African American students, we're talking students, are able to benefit in areas that they haven't been able to benefit before. So when the panelists said that we were doing a lot of that at Laney, it did kind of circle back to me to kind of say, yeah, well, because sometimes when you're in the mix, you don't always look at everything that's going on around you because you're in the fire, so you don't always see everything that's out there. So when he made that comment, I said, "Oh, okay, we do a lot here at the college. I mean, there's always more that we can do, but I think that Laney has come a long way as far as being able to make sure that students are able to benefit from some of the resources that are actually out in the community as well as on the campus. So I'm hopeful that we'll continue the conversation with Doug's blessing. Hopefully we can have more workshops and have that panel come back. I think they've been interested in coming back and discussing more about reparations on the campus.
As the president of Laney, I certainly will welcome them with open arms. Extending your roles, you both are former department chairs, and in addition to that, you mentioned your work that you do with the Peralta Federation of Teachers. Terrence, you specifically have been one of the 2 campus stewards for Laney this year. What has that experience been like? And definitely think about students who might be thinking about working in labor relations and things like that. Could you talk a little bit about that experience?
Yes, since I've been at the college for almost 20 years, I've never taken on. I've always been a member of PFT, but this was the first time where I guess I just decided that now I wanted to kind of be a little bit more involved with the union and be more like a representative. But what I've noticed in my 5 months or whatever that I've been doing it is that there's a lot that goes on. There's a lot that goes on that I didn't have any clue about. That goes on with faculty and some of their questions and some of their concerns. So really for me, it's been an eye opener because I haven't had a lot of issues, while I've been here, but I know that a lot of individuals have. And just for them to feel that there's someone that they can kind of come to and talk to about some of the issues that they're dealing with, whether it's from their, from the department chair, whether it's from administrative wise, whether it's a faculty member. I think it's been really rewarding to just kind of be able to sit down and kind of talk to them about any issues that they have, as well as being able to lean on our president, Jeff, to find about different. I never thought that I would know the union handbook like I know the contract like I know it now. I've learned a lot about the contract and what the rules and rights that we have as faculty members. So I think it's been really rewarding just being able to learn that new position on the campus, and I'm constantly getting emails or phone calls from faculty who are, maybe not major issues, but just kind of like issues. Well, what do you think about this? Do you think this is a breach of the contract, or do you think this is so? For me, it's been an eye opener to just be able to kind of sit down and talk to my faculty colleagues, and to be able to learn more about other issues that go on the campus that, like I said, I had no idea about.
Doug, how about you? Just the leadership role that you have with PFT in your role. What's that been like?
Not too much has been asking me in that role, so I can't say it's been a big change. So I really don't have much to talk about on that topic. But like Terrence said, I am looking forward to doing some future projects and partnering up with other people across the district to address other issues on a Flex Day platform.
Terrence, I cannot, as we start to bring our program in for a landing, I have to take this moment to ask you this question. When you go to, as a campus steward, when you go to management just to talk about issues, and I realize that means me, which is why this is unique, but here we go. What's your approach?
Well, I know we had an issue earlier in the year. We won't go too much into it, but I think for me, my approach is really just sitting down with the individual and finding out what they want from the meeting. And then when we're talking to management, it's more or less like, okay, well, these are his concerns. How can you address it? But I think for the most part, it's really about making sure that the individual is heard from the management piece, because sometimes things can get glossed over. And when it's glossed over, not only is the individual upset about it, but then kind of as a shop steward or, the representative, you're more or less kind of like, well, that didn't work out so well. So maybe we need to do another step, or we need to have another meeting. So I think just overall for me, it's just kind of coming in as a support system is trying to make sure that that person is heard, and that way that the manager knows that, because sometimes I think managers, they may gloss over the fine points of it, but I think for the individual, it's really important for them to know that they're being heard, and then what the action is going to be after that.
You know, as we bring our program to a close, I just want to thank both of you, Terrence and Doug. This has been an amazing hour, at least for me. And would you both be willing to come back and do another show sometime?
Sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
All right. Yeah.
I've had a great time. I didn't know it was all this. But, I've had a great time.
Felicia has done a great job as a station manager here, just really kind of transforming this. And this space is now starting to have a kind of a hearth home feel to it, which is great. So anyway, thank you both. And as we wrap up another edition of the President's Desk, we want to thank our Peralta TV audience, as well as listeners up and down the great state of California, from the far north in the 717 and the 530, all the way down to SoCal in the 619. Big shout out there. But special appreciation to our great Laney and Peralta listeners right here in the 510, tuning in today from Lake Merritt, Oakland Chinatown, downtown Oakland, West Oakland, East Lake, Fruitvale, Diamond, North Oakland, Adams Point, Central Oakland, East Lake, East Oakland, the Oakland Hills, Montclair, Piedmont, and of course, those right here at Laney listening to us today. So Felicia, as we wrap up the President's Desk today, straighten up the chairs and turn the desk light off. Thanks for riding along as always, and please take us home.
Absolutely. Shout out to Laney College Counseling Department. I was going to give you props too, Rudy.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to the President's Desk, hosted by Laney College President Dr. Rudy Besakoff. It airs each Wednesday at 2 a.m. and 2 p.m. on 96.9 KGPC. And viewers can watch the show in its entirety on Peralta TV Sundays from 1 to 2 p.m. To listen anytime, find us on kgpc969.org/programming/current shows and click on the President's Desk, or find the show directly at www.kgpc969.org/the President's Desk. Also, to stream video of the show, go to youtube.com and subscribe to Laney College President's Desk. If you have a suggestion for a future show, email us at laneypresdesk@peralta.edu.